I really had to think about this one. I really had to think if I wanted to just do a straight review of the book, or do I want to do a talk about all the drama associated with it. And I decided that I just cannot really do a straight review of it because I can't help but look at it. I just can't think of all of the stuff that's transpired ever since the events of this past 6 months or so. Because there's just so much about this book in terms of like just weird coincidences about it and just the design of it and just some stuff about it that you can't look at it and see like just how different things were in Comicsgate or whatever the name is. I don't know. And just how different they were just a few months ago. It's really crazy. I'll give you a short review right off the bat, though. It's very good. So this is John De La Rosa's Flying Sparks. He did an Indiegogo for it. It didn't do. It did okay. It wasn't. Unfortunately, it wasn't one of the like six-figure, big superstar ones, but it did okay. Hopefully, it'll only get better from there. But John De La Rose was the person who gave Comicsgate its very first positive media coverage through the Federalist, which is a pretty big right-wing website, and then he knew a writer at PJ Media named, weirdly enough, she shares a name with the Hollywood actress Megan Fox. But yeah, Megan over at PJ Media also wrote a couple pieces about Comicsgate, and that was like the very first positive coverage that we ever got. So John was pretty instrumental in helping to connect people in the early days of the movement. But unfortunately, there's some stuff that's happened with him recently that if you're not on Twitter a lot, you may not know this, but yeah, it's very unfortunate that things went down that way. But the book itself is very good. John has a penchant for writing female protagonists in a way that's not like annoying, like so many other modern day comics or modern day stories in general. Characters that are actually human, go figure, women with real personalities and such. And you can see right here, it opens with our heroine getting the crap kicked out of her by some random dude. And but then she rallies back and is able to disable this guy. And we find out that this girl's name is Chloe Anderson. She's pretty young, she's in college, and she doesn't appear to have superpowers herself, but her boots are anti-gravity boots, which are one of those things, one of the sci-fi conventions that if they existed in the real world, they'd be a big deal, but in so many science fiction universes, they're just a fact of life, they're just a plot point, so yeah, that's cool. And then she also has this stick that somehow can shock and disable people. And the idea is that she is in a relationship with this slightly older guy who ostensibly runs a coffee shop, but it turns out that he's actually an art thief, and it turns out that, unbeknownst to almost anyone, that on top of being an art thief, he also has superpowers, very similar to the heroine Chloe Anderson's, aka Metagirl's, shock stick. He can channel electricity and use it to fry people. And so he's a supervillain thief, and she's a superheroine, and neither of them know this, and they just happen to be dating. And it's in a world where obviously superheroes are fairly commonplace. Her mentor seems to be the big-time superhero, a guy named Meta Man, who actually has superpowers, unlike her. And yeah, so this book is a pretty good introduction to this whole world. And we really do get a sense of their characters and what they want. Yeah, they feel like real people. I mean, the boyfriend, the supervillain type, he's not like an over-the-top supervillain. He actually has like an old-fashioned thief code of honor. And meanwhile, once again, another shot of her not being a perfect Mary Sue, just getting the crap kicked out of her. So yeah, like that's just the short review, is that this is a very good book. I'm not 100% sure how to get it right now that the Indiegogo is done. If you go to the Indiegogo page, you can get the PDF of it, the digital version. I really don't like digital comics, which is why I think I've actually had the digital PDF for quite a while, and I never bothered to read it, for better or worse. I was waiting for the print copy, and the print copy was supposed to be here in November 2018, and hey, it's November 2018, and it just came the other day, so that's good. But unfortunately, I just cannot look at this comic and not think of all of the drama that has happened in Comicsgate over the past couple of months. So I forgot that I opted for this, but it actually came for print from Timothy Lim. And you can see here's Metagirl holding Timothy's character, Thump. And, he just looks so cute, doesn't he? And here you can see that the cover, I think this is specific to the Indiegogo, I'm not really sure. But the cover by John Malin. And then you look at the back, and you see who John's publishing this through, and it's through Dark Legion Comics, which is Vox Day's imprint. Arkhaven's subdivision, basically. Like, Marvel Comics they used to anyway, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have an imprint called Icon, which was creator-owned comics published through Marvel. So, like, Brian Michael Bendis' Scarlet and Mark Millar's Nemesis were both Marvel Icon comics. So they had, even though they're published by Marvel, they had nothing to do with Marvel canon. And likewise, Dark Legion, it's not connected to Alt Hero, it just is published through the Vox Day's Arkhaven infrastructure. But I don't actually know yet where to get a physical copy of this if you want it. I'm sure that eventually it will be available on the Arkhaven store, but when I checked earlier, it did not seem to be. I don't know, though. But, so we've got comic written by John Delarose. Oh, art is by Jethro Morales, who has done work for Dynamite on, like, Hack Slash and some other stuff. I don't know how he feels about this whole Comicsgate thing. I don't know if he's just, like, slinking off into a corner hoping this all passes by or what. But as you can see, he does... this is pretty much up there. It's still kind of like indie art, but it's still very, very good. Better than probably about 65% of what Marvel's doing right now. That's the thing with Marvel, is they set the bar. Normally they set the bar high. Well, nowadays not as much, and that's one of the great things about Comicsgate is pointing out alternatives to that. So, but in just this image before you, we have print by Timothy Lim, comic by John Delarose, with a cover by John Malin, published through Vox Day, essentially. And if you listen to that live stream with me and Ethan Van Sciver, Englentine, and John Malin was very, very vocal about what he felt about Vox Day. And so was Ethan. So it's kind of weird that you got a John Malin cover on something that's associated with Vox Day. I have never endorsed Vox Day wholesale. If you look at the videos I've done about this sort of thing, I've never, ever defended his views. I've never said, Vox Day is this super awesome guy and we should all follow him. I've defended specific things that he has done. And the thing that he's doing that I really like is giving infrastructure. Right? He's been a publisher for over 20 years, and he has a methodology for not only himself to get published, but others as well. And he's been doing that for a while. And when I brought this up in that Racacia Law debate, Ethan Van Sciver said, don't buy into Box's bullshit. Anybody can do what he's doing. It's not a big deal. Well, okay, maybe anybody could do what Vox Day is doing, given enough money. Well, okay, is that the plan? Because with this all-caps comics thing, I thought that Ethan was going to do what he called boutique comics, which is comics produced at a higher level of quality for a higher price point, which is fine, but I mean, that's how the Europeans have been doing it for like 50 years. That's how the mainline European comic industry has pretty much always been. So is that really the end game here, or is there something I'm not seeing? Right? Like, all I see is people like Ethan and John and others building their own brand with this Comicsgate audience built into it. It is entirely possible that a year from now I will look incredibly foolish. That there really was all the stuff going on behind the scenes I'm not aware of. I know there's stuff going on I'm not aware of. I'm not going to pretend there isn't. But whether these concerns prove to be valid or not, only time will tell. I hope they don't prove to be valid. But one of the things I want to do with the channel going forward, and you can see it's been a while since I've uploaded. Part of that is the holidays. I was off had to take a plane ride to see the family over the weekend, over Thanksgiving. Part of that is just still not sure what I want to do with this. But yeah, just trying to find alternatives, trying to find other stuff that's not necessarily the kind of thing that the average person in Comicsgate may be aware of. That's what I'm going to try to do. We'll see how successful I am at that. And this Dark Legion thing, giving talented creators that can't or won't go through the traditional system an alternative way other than just the pure crowdfunded model that Comicsgate has been relying on so far, I think that that's a really good thing, regardless of whatever you think of Vox Day. And John Malin, guy who did this cover, obviously disagrees with me. Like I said, we will see how this all turns out. If you don't know, the reason why John De La Rose, why I was kind of got weird about his name earlier, is that a couple months ago, not long after this launched actually, it was when the Vox Day thing happened, when Vox Day tried to make an imprint called Comicsgate Comics, which I would not have supported. I supported the idea of it, but no, don't call it Comicsgate Comics, call it something else. So Vox Day tried to use the name Comicsgate. People really didn't like that. It looked like he, from a certain point of view, he was trying to take over the movement. And then Ethan Van Sciver obviously rebuffed him. And John, initially, he was kind of like me. He was like, you kind of have to look at, just because you don't like Vox's views, it doesn't mean you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And he went on this live stream with Ethan Van Sciver and a whole bunch of other people that are, I don't know if they were calling themselves a war campaign then or not, but I know Roe was on it, and then Edwin Boyette, who's not really associated with anybody, but is obviously very friendly with Ethan Van Sciver, and a bunch of other people. So it basically, like, John was trying to explain some of Vox's views, and he was trying to, like, sort of explain his own views about things. And I didn't watch it. I'll tell you straight up, I didn't watch it. I'm only kind of hearing about this stuff secondhand, because by that point I was already bored with the streams. And John was trying to explain a very, very nuanced point about a very controversial subject, and he maybe wasn't doing the best job that he could, from what I understand. That he wasn't explaining himself as well as he could, but it gave the other people in the live stream a chance to kind of jump down his throat, and John felt that he was essentially misrepresented and slandered by these guys. And so I felt it from my perspective, like I said, not having watched the stream, not having known exactly what happened, it looked to me like John really was done wrong by that. And I really have sympathy for him from that. Because like I said, he was one of the guys that kind of built the movement, started connecting people, started getting media coverage. I don't think he was the first one to use the name, but he was one of the people big early on in the movement. I actually I started a change.org petition to get him to write a job at Marvel. Unfortunately, that didn't go anywhere. I didn't promote that nearly as hard as I should have. So that's my fault. But so John, very important to the movement, and I guess he felt ousted by it, by the very thing that he'd helped to create. And I don't know if John's going to see this video. It's hard to say, that we're friends, because it's just over the internet. It's not like we talk much or anything. But I've had friendly conversations with him before. I would say that, I'm friendly with him. But I do have to call it like I see it. And the problem is that when John was done wrong by Ethan Van Sciver's, his streaming friends, unfortunately, John kind of let that stew around a bit, and he started really lashing out at people on Twitter, trying to DMing a lot of people that he felt had wronged him or that he felt hadn't spoken up, arguably harassing people, adding them and DMing them when they didn't want to be. People that are, like, otherwise would have been friendly to him. Like, it's not like he was going after the people that wronged him, he was going after people that he felt hadn't helped him enough. And unfortunately, it looked really bad for him. It looked like, for me anyway, that he had been wronged by the people that he was on that live stream with, but then he kind of took it and he was lashing out at people in a way that was not helpful and was actually hurtful to some of the people that he was talking to. I don't want to name names or make this more complicated than I've already made it, but it was a tough situation, and that was one of the things that really started creating a rift in Comicsgate. It's like you have somebody like John who's been here since, when a lot of this really started picking up momentum, being done wrong by people that came much later than that, and it fed into the perception that Ethan Van Sciver and his friends were essentially taking over Comicsgate. A perception that continues to this day. So between John being feeling slighted by them, I'm trying to be very neutral in my language. You can tell that, right? I'm trying to be like as neutral as I possibly can be about this stuff, and keeping my own feelings out about it too much. But yeah, between John kind of feeling slighted by them, and then Timothy Lim, who was another guy who was there from the beginning, did a lot of work, did a lot of cheerleading and contributing a lot of art. He contributed a lot of memes. He was one of the guys that really helped to bring the community together early on, at least when the stuff really started picking up momentum back in 2017 in the early days. And obviously, this stuff, the actual groundwork for Comicsgate was laid like 10 years ago, if not before that. But I'm talking about like when the community really started picking up steam. So yeah, Tim Lim was there, and he felt slighted by many of the same people, and that like stuff like that was what started a lot of the infighting that we have now. I'm just a big fan of like just disengaging entirely from the drama. Just like don't get to just support the people you like. Don't support the people you don't like. Don't associate with them. You don't have to make like a big deal about it. This goes for everybody watching, right? I'm not directing this at any one person. But, yeah. It's really weird that, like, just 6 months ago, or whenever this happened, that you could have something like this, John and Tim and Malin, and they're all together. They're all, more or less happy with each other. It's like, almost nostalgic, looking at it. Back when things were so much simpler. One of the big things is that, like I said, this book, according to the Indiegogo page, was supposed to come out November 2018. And guess what it is? It's November 2018, and here it is. I understand being like a couple months late on a crowdfunding thing, because, stuff happens. But, especially as more and more people do it, they're going to be able to pass on more and more information about what the right way to do it is. So hopefully this will get easier. But that being said, the book's coming out on time is a bigger deal than it maybe seems from a certain point of view. It's like, a month or two late, who really cares? Well, it's not like it's 3 or 4 years like the one book Kwanzaa had to do, or 5 years, so like the one book Richard Pace had to do. Like, it's like a couple months really isn't a huge deal, but hopefully going forward it'll be more and more of a priority. It has been suggested that so much of the infighting, it doesn't actually come from the personalities involved. It just comes from the fact that the average person in Comicsgate was asked to pony up a whole bunch of money in a fairly short amount of time to support all these crowdfunded books, and we were told, hey, these crowdfunded books, they're gonna show the industry, that we're the real customers. But since putting up all that money, like I said, in a fairly short amount of time, like if you backed Jawbreakers, Cyberfrog, Red Rooster, and Lone Star, those all came out within like a 2-month period, 2 or 3 month period, and you put $25 down on each of them. Well, that's like that's it's like $100 for comics over 2 or 3 months. It's like that's more than some people will spend over like half a year in comics. For me, a single unattached guy with a fairly good job, it's not a huge deal, but there are some people that, $25 for a single comic is like their whole budget for that month for any kind of entertainment. This, I don't remember exactly what tier, I think, because the print would have put it up, but yeah, it's a trade paperback. It's 4 or 5 issues here. So I think that this is definitely worth, normal trade paperback price, whatever it's retailing for right now. What was I saying? Anyway, yeah. So the Indiegogo is coming out. So yeah. So it may be that the infighting in Comicsgate will decrease severely once, or whatever the movement is. My opposition to the name Comicsgate, just on the principle of it being dumb, is well documented. But there is a movement, a core movement that I think doesn't really need a name, but it's been given. People insist that it has a name. I don't know. Anyway, but it's been suggested that once more of these books start coming out, people will be not nearly as fraught and not nearly as sort of tension filled. Hopefully that is true. So far, it's Flying Sparks has come out, NASA Stardust has come out, Iron Sights came out, and a couple other less well publicized ones came out. So hopefully within the near future here, we'll have all these books, and then that'll be the end of that. So, I kind of already did the review. I like this book. Chloe Anderson is Meta Girl. I'm interested to see where it goes next. I don't know if or when the second volume is coming out, but looking forward to that. Don't know where it's coming out either, but I'm sure all that will get talked about it eventually. So anyway, tell me what you think about this rather lengthy, rambling video. Like, comment, subscribe. In any case, this is Unranked Chevron, signing off.